everyone, Nellie McQuinn here from Property 165. I am filming in Zermatt in Switzerland, as you guys can see. If you've been following me on social media, you will probably know that I am on my honeymoon, which is extremely exciting. And I thought I'd do a quick video diary. Matt's off doing some shopping. And we've had some exciting things happen recently, and I thought I'd do some updates regularly just to sort of go through the process. So again, those of you who follow me on social will probably know that we bought a property at auction last Wednesday, and we are going to be going through the whole process with bridging to finance that purchase, and it's going to be happening whilst we're away. So we don't get back into the country till next month, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the entire purchase will have gone through using bridging finance with us doing everything remotely. So I thought that that was quite interesting, and you guys might be interested in sort of following that journey with us. In particular, I wrote a blog. My most recent blog at the time of filming this was entirely based on a previous bridging application. So I'll pop the address in on the video now. So if you guys do want to check that out, please have a look. That particular blog got a lot of feedback, a lot of positive comments, and this is sort of the next step from that with a whole new bridging application from Switzerland. So just to give you guys a bit of history about the project, Matt and I own a property in Tottenham in N17, and we've owned it for a couple of years. It was the first place we ever bought. It was actually bought in my name. We lived in it, and we've moved on, and it's now part of our buy-to-let portfolio, but it is in an ex-council, some of them are still council, sort of block of flats. They're not the massive blocks that you see. There's only 3 stories to them, but it's a lovely little estate. We lived there, so we know the area really well. And we've always got an eye on the property prices in the area because one of our investment properties is there. So a couple of weeks ago, a property in not our particular building, but in the same estate just opposite in another block, a flat came up on auction. And I was extremely interested in it because our flat's always been really good for us. The capital growth has been amazing. It's quite sentimental because we live there, but obviously it's also a very good investment for us. So I was particularly interested by this property and started doing a little bit more research into it. It turns out that it has exactly the same footprint as ours, which we could see by checking the land registry data. So it's a 2-bedroom flat, but what was interesting about this one, it had been illegally converted into 2 studio apartments. So that's partly why it was going to the room. It was also going to the room because it was part of a much bigger portfolio from an investor, and I believe he'd gone bankrupt, and all of his portfolio was being sort of divvied up at this particular auction. I think there were 10 plus lots that were part of his estate. So we went and viewed the property. It was exactly the same layout as ours. Ours is on the ground floor, this is on the second floor. That was the only real difference, and obviously the internal configuration was completely different. It was quite a safe bet for us because we knew the block, we knew the freeholder with the council, they're extremely good. We just know the area, and not only the area, but we know that road and that unit and the whole estate really intimately. So it was quite a safe bet for us. And we then obviously took the next steps quite seriously to really examine the pack. So we got our solicitors involved at this stage. Now, our solicitors were slightly concerned because the pack was so sparse. There was just so much that wasn't there. There were a few issues that were raised. They might still be issues as we're still in the financing process. They, touch wood, haven't been as of yet, but they could still come up, but we're ready to sort of deal with them if we need to. The issues that it raised were contamination. There was a potential for some contamination issues, and also potentially some issues with flooding. Now, again, we're extremely confident with this because we have our flat in the other block, so we know that these issues aren't insurmountable, and we've got over them ourselves before. But obviously, from our solicitor's perspective, this was somewhat of a concern. We, at this point, took a view to take the gamble. We knew that the property itself was mortgaged with the mortgage works, so it was feasible to get a mortgage, and we ourselves have had 2 mortgages on our property, so we know that the whole building and the estate is definitely mortgageable, but at this stage, from the pack alone, there were a few questions, but we decided to go ahead with it, and what our intention was to bridge the entire amount. So what we wanted to do is to take it back to the 2-bedroom layout that it originally was, and we were going to bridge the full amount for the purchase and also some additional to do this work. And what we were doing is we were bridging across the property we were buying and another unencumbered property property that we have that is on the market at the moment but hasn't sold as quickly as we would have liked. So we were going to bridge across the two to get all of the money. Now, what we could have done, and this is our backup plan, is we could have swapped the bridging from the purchased property, the property that we were buying in auction. We could have put that onto another property that we have and borrowed against two completely unrelated properties, and that would have then helped us around the potential problem if they have sort of issues, that the lenders have issues with the contamination. But touch wood, nothing has happened regarding that as of yet. They seem quite happy with the reports that we've sent them. So that was our backup plan, and with that and the sort of the strength of that, we decided to go to the room, and we did, and we won, and it was very exciting. And we purchased it for £225,000. It was slightly over what we wanted to pay, but within what we were comfortable paying. And there's still obviously healthy margins for us in that, so we're extremely happy. And so obviously we needed to get going really, really quickly with the bridging application, because we bid on the Wednesday, and Matt and I left at, I think, 4 o'clock in the morning on the Thursday, so we didn't really have a lot of time to sort anything out. We actually met a bridging company in the room. So, you know, when you go to an auction, anyone who's been to an auction will know that there are stalls outside and people selling their products, magazines, services, solicitors, that sort of thing. And we met a bridging company there purely by chance. We started to chat, and they seemed really open to the fact that we wouldn't be around. This was something that I was extremely concerned about. And obviously, having just gone through the whole process with my blog, outlining all the different things that we need to sign, guarantees, again, check that out on my blog. It was something that was at the forefront of my mind about the logistics of how we do the bridging if we weren't in the country. And they seemed really fine with that, so we decided to give them a go. We've always gone through a broker before, so this is the first time we've gone direct to the lender, and so far it's been a really good process. The only thing that we did prior to leaving was we got all of our identification certified at the post office. So Matt and I went with 2 lots of address identification and also photographic identification with copies, and we got everything stamped and certified in the UK. And then we scanned that off and sent that straight to the bridging company, and they were really happy with that, so that was great. Then we left the country at 4 o'clock in the morning. So the process so far has been pretty much as it would be expected. We got back from the bridger some different terms about how much we wanted to borrow and the different rates. We had some few discussions at the beginning about whether to roll up the interest at the start. I feel a little bit more comfortable about that, and those of you who don't know what that basically means that you borrow more money and then they deduct the interest that you would be paying otherwise, and it just means that you're not paying monthly interest, because monthly interest can be a couple of grand, and it's a debate whether you want that money in your budget for cash flow reasons, or whether you just want to sort of them to have it. You've never touched it, and therefore you know that you're not going to miss payments and you're not going to get into any trouble. And I personally, being a bit more conservative, prefer that way. So we had some discussions. Obviously that means borrowing slightly more, because you have to borrow the amount with the interest on top. So we went through that process, we picked an amount, and all was going fine until a couple of days ago we got a phone call from the bridger saying that actually we couldn't borrow as much as we thought, which was okay. It wasn't that bad. We'd sort of buffered a lot in there. I think we could borrow £20,000 less than we thought we could. We were borrowing some additional money to do some additional work on another property in the meantime as well. So it just meant for cash flow reasons we just had to tweak some things. So that potentially could have been an issue, but it wasn't. It wasn't to do with our valuation, which we initially thought it was. So we thought that basically that they hadn't come back with our valuation as agreeing with their valuation, but that wasn't true. It's basically that they have a sort of a clause and a policy that when you're doing a capital raise against a property like we're doing with our unencumbered property, they can only lend up to a certain amount. And so that's just the loan to value is a policy that they have, and that's all they'll do. So there was no way around that. Our valuations were happy. One of the things we really liked about this company is that they are willing to do a desktop valuation. So one of the other things we did before we left the country was we raced around to our properties, the one especially that is unencumbered, and we put a lockbox on the outside so that anyone needing to do a valuation could get in if we needed that. That turned out to not be necessary, obviously a good thing to have regardless, but they're willing to do desktop valuations on both the properties, which is such a big relief. It means that we don't need to be there. It means they don't need to faff about with the lockboxes. It saves so much time. We don't need to pay for valuation fee. So that's been a really, really big selling point for us as well. So we adjusted our figures. We're really happy with where it's come back. borrowing slightly less than we thought, but that's not an issue. And yeah, so that all was going well. We started to get the information from our solicitor. So the pack went through to our solicitor, not yesterday, but the day before. I have no idea what day that is. I don't even know what day it is today. 2 days ago, the pack went to our solicitor. There were some initial queries because all of the paperwork said that our solicitor needed to witness our signatures. We'd been extremely clear up front that that wasn't possible because obviously we are over here. So that was not an issue. It was a minor heart attack for a moment, but I think this is one thing that I have really learned in the bridging process is that sometimes it comes through and you do stress because it's like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, we're never going to get the money, we've lost the deposit. But actually just a conversation with both of our solicitor and the bridger, and they're like, no, it's fine, we'll just adjust the paperwork, we know that you're not around, it is no problem. So what we're doing is we are getting all of our legal advice via phone, email and or Skype, we're not quite sure yet, and we will then take our documentation to a notary. We found one in Milan and they are a UK embassy official notary, and they will witness our signatures, and that's all fine. And then we will FedEx that document straight away back to the UK, and then our solicitors will sign it saying that they have given us the relevant information. So we haven't done that process yet, so hopefully that won't be complicated and hopefully that will be smooth sailing. But that's the point of these video diaries, is to let you guys know when it is and isn't smooth sailing, so we will obviously keep you updated. So that's where we're at the moment. We had to send off some documentation last night. The documentation in comparison to what we've previously had to send through, especially if you read my blog, all of the information in there, it wasn't nearly as arduous as that, which I'm super happy about. I think we had 4 documents that we needed to send through: a direct debit mandate, which is just super simple. We had to send through a financial statement, which was absolutely fine. That was just stating our incomes. We had to send through a property portfolio, which was again really easy because I have my template all filled in and everything ready to go. Again, harping back on, but if you guys want a free Excel spreadsheet to do your own template, there is a free version that you can download from my blog. So put all your information in there, and that's extremely useful. And this was one of those moments where I just went, I have all of this, it's all saved. So I just exported it as a PDF and sent that off. We needed to sign some things, a form just basically saying that we approved to be credit checked, and we were only exploring options with one lender, which is all fine. So I think 4 documents we sent off. The only one we haven't sent off yet is the accountant's reference. We've never been asked for this before, but this is fairly straightforward. And if you have an accountant working with your business, it should be an easy process. It's a 1-page document. We've sent that off to our accountant. Hopefully we're getting that back from him today. Thank you, Ian. It literally says how long they've worked for us, what their qualifications are, our net income from our last financial year, and our projected net income for our next financial year. So because we haven't hit our next financial year yet, I had to just do a quick email to our accountant and just outline some of the things that we have been doing in the last year so that he knows roughly what our net income will be. And yeah, he then just signs that and sort of puts his stamp of approval on it and sends that off. So hopefully that will come back to us today, and that will go then off again. And from what we can see, that's it for the documentation that we will need, apart from the guarantees and the things we need to get signed. So it's been, again, touch wood, quite a streamlined process, but I don't want to crack open the champagne yet because who knows what will happen in the future. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have had similar processes that you've gone through, I'd really love to hear about them. Any thoughts, comments, please get in touch. All of my social media will be on the screen at the end of this video. I apologize if it takes a little bit of time. As you can see, this is what you're contending with, so it's a little bit of a fight for my attention at the moment because this is awesome. And also I'm on my honeymoon. So thank you very much for listening. I hope it's been useful. I will do another update as soon as we've got something more substantial to report back on in the next couple of days, hopefully. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.